Have you ever felt like Hollywood is trying to send you a message? Like a really weird message about your love life? I know, that sounds a little dramatic, but stick with me here. Because if you watch enough big romance movies, the message seems to be, if your toxic ex ever shows up again, you should probably just throw your entire stable, happy life in the garbage for them. It's a strange lesson, to say the least.
I mean, we all grow up on these stories, right? The grand gestures, the passionate speeches in the pouring rain, this whole idea that there's one single person out there who's your destiny. And it's an incredibly powerful and, comforting fantasy. It's pretty much shaped how we've all thought about love for generations.
But here's the thing. If you look just a little bit closer, you start to see this giant crack in the whole perfect fantasy. From The Notebook to Titanic, heck, even The Office, so many of our most beloved, iconic love stories are actually built on a foundation of cheating. It's weird, right? The one true love almost always seems to arrive when someone is already in a perfectly good relationship.
So yeah, let's get into it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and unpack the cinematic playbook. We're going to look at the tropes and the little storytelling tricks that Hollywood uses over and over again to sell us betrayal and call it true love.
For me, this whole realization really clicked into place during a recent rewatch of Wuthering Heights. You know the one. It's always sold as one of the greatest, most epic love stories of all time. But when you actually sit down and watch what's happening, it's something else entirely.
So let's just break this down for a second. The main character, Catherine, is married to this guy, Edgar, who is, by all accounts, a total catch. He's kind, he's patient, he's rich, he gives her this amazing life. But then, her moody, chaotic ex, Heathcliff, rolls back into town. And what does she do? She immediately starts cheating on her husband, in their own house. And the wildest part is how the movie frames it all. It wants you, the audience, to root for this toxic affair, to see it as destiny. And poor Edgar's pain and total betrayal, that's just a little speed bump on the road to true love. His feelings are completely irrelevant.
And seeing that so clearly in a story from all the way back in 1847, it makes you realize, whoa, this is not a new thing. This is practically a Hollywood tradition. And once you see that pattern, you start seeing it absolutely everywhere. It turns out there's a pretty standard playbook for how to make infidelity look romantic. So let's break down the two main plays they run.
Okay, first up is a big one. We'll call it destiny cheating. This is the trope where the affair isn't really a choice. It's fate. It's the universe correcting a mistake. The two leads were always meant to be together. And that means the person they're cheating on, well, they're not really a victim, are they? They're just an obstacle, a placeholder, getting in the way of destiny.
And the absolute #1 poster child for destiny cheating is, you guessed it, The Notebook. Let's not forget, when Allie and Noah reunite, she is engaged to Lon, a guy who's kind, handsome, loving, and emotionally stable. His only real flaw is that he isn't Ryan Gosling. And just days before her wedding, she sleeps with Noah. And this massive betrayal is framed as this beautiful, brave moment where she finally chooses her soulmate.
And this is the magic trick, isn't it? This quote just nails it. The movie completely smooths over the actual pain of what she did. It makes the fiancé just weirdly okay with it all, and then boom, it distracts you with one of the most iconic, sweeping, romantic kisses in movie history. You never actually have to deal with the messy, human consequences.
Okay, so let's move on to a sneakier and maybe even more common version of this whole thing. Let's talk about emotional cheating. This is where the affair is less physical and more about this deep, soul-bearing bond. And it's always framed as two poor soulmates who are just tragic victims of bad timing. They can't help it, Their connection is just too powerful. And the absolute masterclass in this is, of course, Jim and Pam from The Office. For 2 whole seasons, while Pam is engaged to Roy, their friendship is just a long series of inside jokes, lingering glances, and emotional intimacy that is way, way over the line. It all leads up to that passionate kiss just a few weeks before she's supposed to get married. And when they have to deal with the consequences, the show frames it as this huge tragedy, not as, the direct result of their own actions. And when they finally do get together, there's never a real moment where they talk about how it all started. We just get the happily ever after, and we're all supposed to cheer.
Just think about it this way. The only reason we buy this as an epic love story is because the camera is always on Jim and Pam. Try to imagine that same story, but filmed from the perspective of their partners, Roy and Karen. It's not a romance anymore, is it? It's basically a horror story. It's about slowly realizing that the two people you trust the most in the world have been betraying you for years.
Now here's where it gets
really interesting because what all this reveals is a massive double standard. Hollywood absolutely knows how to show cheating for the devastating, painful thing that it is. It just seems to pick and choose when it wants to.
Just look at this comparison. On one side, you have The Notebook. Allie cheats, and it's a brave, romantic choice for her soulmate. Her fiancé just gently steps aside because he wants her to be happy. On the other side, you have a movie like He's Just Not That Into You. Ben cheats, and it's framed as a selfish, terrible betrayal. The fallout is ugly, it's painful, it's realistic, and it ends in divorce. It is the exact same action, treated in completely different ways, all depending on which story the movie wants to tell.
So this all leads to the big question, right? Why? Why is this trope so popular? Why do writers keep going back to it? And why do we, as an audience, find it so compelling? Well, the answer is actually a lot simpler than you might think.
For a writer, it's basically a storytelling shortcut. An affair instantly creates drama, high stakes, conflict. You get the whole package. But more than that, it sells a fantasy that is almost irresistible, the fantasy of being chosen. It taps right into that deep-down desire to believe that you are so special, so incredible, that someone would literally risk everything, their marriage, their reputation, their whole life, just for you. That's a powerful idea. Okay, but what's the actual effect of seeing these kinds of stories again and again and again? Does it start to mess with how we think about love in our own lives? Well, there's this concept from media studies called cultivation theory. And the basic idea is that the stories we watch don't just entertain us, they actually cultivate our sense of what's normal. The more you're exposed to the same messages and the same kinds of stories on screen, the more your brain starts to think that's just how the real world works. So after years and years of watching these movies, what's the subtle message we absorb? It's that a calm, stable, peaceful relationship must be boring. It must be missing passion. That real love is supposed to be intense and chaotic and dramatic. These movies teach us, quietly, that the feeling of love can be used as a free pass for really bad behavior, and it slowly redefines what romance even means to include things like betrayal and dishonesty. And let's be super clear here. The problem isn't that cheating is in movies. Art should show every part of life, the good and the bad. The problem is when these stories take betrayal, take dishonesty, take disrespect, and they wrap it up in a beautiful package with a bow and try to sell it to us as the ultimate romance. So the next time you're watching one of these epic love stories, just ask yourself this one simple question. Does this entire romance only work because some innocent person had to get their heart broken? Because if the answer is yes, then maybe what you're watching isn't a great love story. Maybe it's just bad behavior with really good lighting.